Question 65.12. Questioner: then each of the wanderers here acts as a function of the biases he has developed in any way he sees fit to communicate or simply be in his polarity to aid the total consciousness of the planet. Is there any physical way in which he aids, perhaps by his vibrations somehow just adding to the planet just as electrical polarity or charging a battery? Does that also aid the planet, just the physical presence of the wanderers? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct, and the mechanism is precisely as you state. We intended this meaning in the second portion of our previous answer. You may, at this time, note that as with any entities, each wanderer has its unique abilities, biases, and specialities, so that from each portion of each density represented among the wanderers come an array of pre-incarnative talents which then may be expressed upon this plane which you now experience, so that each wanderer, in offering itself before incarnation, has some special service to offer in addition to the doubling effect of planetary love and light and the basic function of serving as beacon or shepherd. Thus there are those of fifth density whose abilities to express wisdom are great. There are fourth and sixth density wanderers whose ability to serve as, shall we say, passive radiators or broadcasters of love and love light are immense. There are many others whose talents brought into this density are quite varied. Thus wanderers have three basic functions once the forgetting is penetrated, the first two being basic, the tertiary one being unique to the particular mind, body, spirit complex. We may note at this point, while you ponder the probability vortices, that although you have many items which cause distress and thus offer seeking and service opportunities, there is always one container in that store of peace, love, light, and joy. This vortex may be very small, but to turn one's back upon it is to forget the infinite possibilities of the present moment. Could your planet polarize towards harmony in one fine, strong moment of inspiration? Yes, my friends. It is not probable, but it is ever possible. Question 65.13. Questioner: how common in the universe is a mixed harvest from a planet of both positively and negatively oriented mind, body, spirit complexes? Answer: I am Ra. Among planetary harvests which yield an harvest of mind, body, spirit complexes, approximately 10% are negative, approximately 60% are positive, and approximately 30% are mixed, with nearly all harvests being positive. In the event of mixed harvest, it is almost unknown for the majority of the harvest to be negative. When a planet moves strongly towards the negative, there is almost no opportunity for harvestable positive polarization. Question 65.14. Questioner: can you tell me why there is almost no opportunity in that case? Ra: the ability to polarize positively requires a certain degree of self-determination. Question 65.15. Questioner: then as these final days of the cycle transpire, if the harvest were to occur now, today, it would have a certain number harvested positively and negatively and a certain number of repeaters. I am going to assume that because of the catalyst that will be experienced between now and the actual harvesting time, these numbers of harvestable entities will increase. Generally speaking, not particularly with respect to this planet, but with respect to general experience in harvesting, how big an increase in harvestable entities can you logically assume will occur because of the catalyst that occurs in the final period such as this one, or am I making a mistake in assuming that other planets have added catalyst at the end of a harvesting period when they have a mixed harvest? Answer: I am Ra. In the event of mixed harvest, there is nearly always disharmony and, therefore, added catalyst in the form of your so-called earth changes. In this assumption you are correct. It is the Confederation's desire to serve those who may indeed seek more intensely because of this added catalyst. We do not choose to attempt to project the success of added numbers to the harvest, for this would not be appropriate. We are servants. If we are called, we shall serve with all our strength. To count the numbers is without virtue. Question 65.16. Questioner: now the added catalyst at the end of the cycle is a function specifically of the orientation of the consciousness that inhabits the planet. The consciousness has provided the catalyst for itself in orienting its thinking in the way it has oriented it, thus acting upon itself the same as catalyst of bodily pain and disease act upon the single mind, body, spirit complex. I made this analogy once before but reiterate it at this time to clarify my own thinking in seeing the planetary entity as somewhat of a single entity made up of billions of mind, body, spirit complexes. Is my viewpoint correct? Answer: I am Ra. You are quite correct. Question 65.17. Questioner: then we deal with an entity that has not yet formed a social memory but is yet an entity, just as one of us can be called a single entity. Can we continue this observation of the conglomerate entity through the galactic entity, or shall I say, planetary system type of entity? Let me try to phrase it this way. Could I look at a single sun in its planetary system as an entity and then look at a major galaxy with its billions of stars as an entity? Can I continue this extrapolation in this way? Answer: I am Ra. You can, but not within the framework of third density space-time. Let us attempt to speak upon this interesting subject. In your space-time, you and your peoples are the parents of that which is in the womb. The Earth, as you call it, is ready to be born, and the delivery is not going smoothly. When this entity has become born, it will be instinct with the social memory complex of its parents, which have become fourth density positive. In this density there is a broader view. You may begin to see your relationship to the Logos or Sun with which you are most intimately associated. This is not the relationship of parent to child but of creator, that is Logos, to creator, that is the mind, body, spirit complex, as Logos. When this realization occurs, you may then widen the field of eye-shot, if you will, infinitely recognizing parts of the Logos throughout the one infinite creation and feeling, with the roots of mind informing the intuition, the parents aiding their planets in evolution in reaches vast and unknown in the creation, for this process occurs many, many times in the evolution of the creation as a whole. Question 65.18. Questioner: the wanderer goes through a forgetting process. You mentioned that those who have both third and fourth density bodies activated now do not have the forgetting that the wanderer has. I was just wondering if, say, a sixth density wanderer were here with a third density body activated, would he have gone through a forgetting that was in sections, shall I say, a forgetting of fourth, fifth and sixth densities, and if he were to have his fourth density body activated, then he would have a partial additional memory and then another partial memory if his fifth density body were activated, and full memory if he had his sixth density body activated? Does this make any sense? Answer: I am Ra. No. Question 65.19. Questioner: thank you. The forgetting process was puzzling me because you said that the fourth density activated people who were here who had been harvested did not have the same forgetting problem. Could you tell me why the wanderer loses his memory? Answer: I am Ra. The reason is twofold. First, the genetic properties of the connection between the mind, body, spirit complex and the cellular structure of the body is different for third density than for third, fourth density. Secondly, the free will of third density entities needs to be preserved. Thus wanderers volunteer for third density genetic or DNA connections to the mind, body, spirit complex. The forgetting process can be penetrated to the extent of the wanderer remembering what it is and why it is upon the planetary sphere. However, it would be an infringement if wanderers penetrated the forgetting so far as to activate the more dense bodies and thus be able to live, shall we say, in a godlike manner. This would not be proper for those who have chosen to serve. The new fourth density entities which are becoming able to demonstrate various newer abilities are doing so as a result of the present experience, not as a result of memory. There are always a few exceptions, and we ask your forgiveness for constant barrages of overgeneralization. Question 65.20. Questioner: I don't know if this question is related to what I am trying to get at or not. I'll ask it and see what results. You mentioned in speaking of the pyramids the resonating chamber was used so that the adept could meet the self. Would you explain what you meant by that? Answer: I am Ra. One meets the self in the center or deeps of the being. The so-called resonating chamber may be likened unto the symbology of the burial and resurrection of the body, wherein the entity dies to self and through this confrontation of apparent loss and realization of essential gain, is transmuted into a new and risen being. Question 65.21. Questioner: could I make the analogy of in this apparent death of losing the desires that are the illusory, common desires of third density and gaining desires of total service to others? Answer: I am Ra. You are perceptive. This was the purpose and intent of this chamber, as well as forming a necessary portion of the king's chamber position's effectiveness. Question 65.22. Questioner: can you tell me what this chamber did to the entity to create this awareness in him? Answer: I am Ra. This chamber worked upon the mind and the body. The mind was affected by sensory deprivation and the archetypical reactions to being buried alive with no possibility of extricating the self. The body was affected both by the mind configuration and by the electrical and piezoelectrical properties of the materials which were used in the construction of the resonating chamber. This will be the last full query of this working. May we ask if there are any brief queries at this time? Question 65.23. Questioner: is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Answer: I am Ra. We feel that the instrument is well supported and that all is well. We caution each regarding this instrument's distortions towards pain, for it dislikes sharing these expressions, but as support group this instrument subconsciously accepts each entity's aid. All is in alignment. You are conscientious. We thank you for this. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, rejoicing in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, glorying in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.